everyone. This is Dr. Debra, and you know me as She Wears Boldly, but as I said, we're introducing a whole new podcast, Lead and Speak Without Permission, and my second wonderful guest, Antwione. And we're going to be talking today about some more about AI. He was at a conference I did recently, and he has some really stellar things to tell you today. So I'm just going to hand the whole thing over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, Dr. Debra. Pleasure meeting you recently at a conference. And yeah, happy to meet everyone's acquaintance. I'm a technology executive. I've been in IT for 25 years. Recently, I've been having a lot of discussion, as everyone knows, about artificial intelligence, AI, how to introduce it into your business, how to be successful in your enterprise. And I've done some consulting and advising. And what I'm finding, which is what my presentation is going to be based on, is I'm expecting to have a discussion on technology, ones and zeros and data sets and things of that nature. But what I'm finding is it becomes more of a business discussion that's tied around structure, that's tied around the components of what leads to the AI execution. And today I'd love to talk about AI governance. And today, what I like to focus on today is on AI governance. When a lot of institutions are looking to execute or looking to implement their AI product, a lot of discussion comes with what does implementation look like? And what I'm finding is a lot of discussion begins turning towards what structure do you have in place as it turns to governance. And a lot of founders, entities, leaders, they don't have a lot of answers for me. So it becomes more of a discussion that you need to have you need to take these predecessor actions before you can lead to the implementation or the execution. What I would typically advise is don't invest in the AI product until you have that in place. But when I'm in the consultation, a lot of people, they've already bought it and they're like, okay, we need to know how to do it, how to use it, how to expand it, how to optimize it. But it goes a lot into discussions on the proper structure that you have in place. So AI governance is not optional. It's not optional. This is a mandatory critical piece to your AI rollout. So I'm going to talk about how to structure AI, protect your organization, and lead with accountability. And there'll be 4 pillars that we will discuss that will take us through this today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people think of the other side of it, that we have to have things in place to protect ourselves.
Exactly. AI is now, as someone who's been in technology for 25 years, I can say AI is probably one of the first singularities, if you will, that came into my professional time, to where it's almost like it was there, right? And now we're scrambling, we're working backwards. Even the people who've been in technology, we're working backwards a lot to put the guardrails, to put the policies in place, because it's here and everyone's using it. So it's moving, it's accelerating quicker than people's ability to plan for it. But that's not to say that that's not to say that you cannot walk and chew gum at the same time. I say, hey, it's here. It is being used. We're not going to go and tell everyone to stop using it, but let's begin to put the guardrails. Let's begin to put the governance in place as we're using it, so we can have that in place to protect us from the compliance, from the legality things that could potentially be roadblocks down the road. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Organizations that deploy AI without governance don't have an IA advantage. They have an audit risk. We do not want to be an institution. We do not want to be an institution that doesn't think about governance, and then later on it becomes a compliance issue. It becomes things that produce the institutional risk that could hurt what you're trying to do. So ungoverned AI doesn't fail slowly, it fails loudly. So when it happens, it could have some detrimental impact. So I say, if you don't have a governance thing, it's not an advantage. It could potentially be an audit risk. Today, we're going to talk about 4 pillars that will transform how you govern AI. The 4 are on these pillars. The first pillar is pillar 1. Governance defines who is accountable. When you're having problems with AI, who do you go to? And let me just tell your audience here, it's not the IT team all the time. Yes, the IT team, we are stewards of whatever the platform is that you're using a lot of times, but AI is an institutional opportunity, not just an IT problem. It is a shared governance by your IT team, by your HR team, by your finance team, all of the components. It touches every part of your institution now. So it's not an IT problem that they have to solve. The governance of finding who defines who is accountable requires the flow chart that involves functional areas as well. And that's something that a lot of entities are getting themselves familiarized with. So just be conscientious of how you're using it. Ethical and responsible consideration is not a soft skills requirement. So yeah, so pillar one, governance defines who is accountable. When an AI system makes a decision that harms someone, the first question is not what went wrong, it's who is responsible. Governance answers that question before the crisis, not after. When you have a problem, what's the first thing? Who do we need to call? Typically, people will say that first before they do. They won't say what went wrong. They say, who do we need to call? And if it's
Yeah,
technology, unfortunately, the director or whoever's your leader IT, they're getting that call. And often he's like, where did this
right.
information come from? Oh, it came from the finance team. Well, the finance team, you have to go to the finance team. But if you have the governance in place, you already know who to go to as opposed to being this round robin of calling or sending emails trying to find out, who's responsible. So without governance, pillar one on accountability, without governance, AI has no owner. And when there's no clear owner, AI models run in production with no assigned steward. Have decision trees when you're looking at the different elements of your business, when you're looking at your accounting, when you're looking at your human resource information system, when you're looking at your customer information system. Who owns that data when there's a problem? Perfect example I'll give is all these AI chatbots on these websites, right? When there's a question that the customer puts in and they get an answer and say the answer is inaccurate, well, who's responsible for fixing that answer? Sometimes it's not the web administrator. The web administrator is going to say, well, I got this data from somewhere. So having those decision trees and those flow charts that identifies who's responsible for the data will help you tremendously when you're trying to manage and promote AI more.
Right.
Diffuse responsibility. Everyone assumes someone else is monitoring. It's the whole key. When everyone's responsible, no one's responsible, right? So having those good monitoring checks and balances is key.
Hmm.
Vendors blame internal teams, teams blame vendors. It's this. When there's no governance in place, everyone is pointing the finger at the other person. And I've seen that happen in real time. So it's good to have governance in place. And governance fills the gap. It defines the roles. It identifies the owner. And when we say owner, we're not talking about individual. We're talking about a collective of ownership. So the owners of that particular that particular discipline that functional area is responsible for, identifying a list of owners. That's when we say AI owner, we're talking about collective ownership. An ethics reviewer, a data steward. Now, data stewards, that typically falls into your IT team, but a number of functional areas will have someone responsible for that data as well. So again, having a governance, knowing who is the person that you need to contact is as important as what the problem is.
I think I really, really love that last line there where you said, don't wait. It needs to happen now. Get that chain
Absolutely.
of authority going at the very beginning, not
Absolutely.
like scrambling when the house starts to fall down. Yeah,
Indeed. And
love
and
that. That is
and
powerful.
thank you, thank you. And it's funny. I maybe because I'm a paranoid guy, and you'll see a lot of us technologists who've been in the game for a minute. We're constant paranoid because we look
Yeah,
at things in a worst case scenario. I'm always looking at it. What is the worst case scenario? If we have, I'm in California right now. If we have an earthquake, how do I get this business up and running as quick as I can? What is my disaster recovery plan? Do you have a good disaster recovery plan? You have a good business
right.
continuity plan.
Yes,
AI now becomes a part of your business. So you have to think about
it
what
does.
disaster recovery and business continuity looks like for your AI strategy as well.
That is very powerful. And people
Yeah,
need to, really develop that if they're getting into this.
absolutely. So pillar number two, data
Yeah.
governance. Data without rules is a liability. Everyone wants to build AI on their data, which seems very good. But ungoverned data doesn't just produce bad models, it produces legally and ethically indefensible ones. You don't want to be in the position of pushing AI so much and then something becomes a compliance issue. Something becomes a legal issue. We are living in a very litigious society. And do you have the appropriate governance that identifies something that could potentially be a
Yeah.
legal consideration or an ethical one? The data governance equation, ungoverned data will lead to ungoverned AI outputs. At the end, for me, especially when we talk about generative AI is an output. It's like your printer. Your printer is an output device. It prints out your report. It prints out whatever you want to push out.
Yeah.
It's an output device. AI can be looked at as the same way. It aggregates all of this information, and then at the end, it outputs it based on the algorithm or based on the questions or based on the instructions that you give it. It's an output device. So if you have ungoverned data, guess what's going to be in that output? An ungoverned mess that's coming out through whatever AI engine you're using, chatbot or whatever that you're using. Missing lineage. Yes, in the way that we talk about family lineage,
Right.
we could talk about data lineage, which essentially says from the time that piece of that data set was created into the history of that data, do you have a good lineage that tracks that? Do you have something in place that manages the lineage of that data? Because a lot of times we're trying to figure out what happened, why did it produce the wrong output? Oftentimes you have to go into the data lineage to see where something changed. So having guardrails in terms of managing and having a governance around your data lineage is important, or you'll have unexplainable results. And then no retention policy. What do you have? A lot of institutions I speak with, they, they've been in business for 25 years. What is your data retention policy? We have data
Hmm.
that goes back 25 years. What a lot of institutions don't know is that that creates risk. It's great to have all that institutional information that goes back to your founding, but also know that that sits in a digital set that could, if that gets exposed, if someone has 25 years of your data. So have a retention policy. There's various policies. Check your federal or state institution to say what are your policies or governance around when it's time to purge or archive that data. Consider a retention policy, certainly if you don't have one, or it could lead to regulatory violation risks.
I'm so glad that somebody's actually looking at this stuff. This isn't something that you hear a lot about.
Yeah.
It really isn't. Nobody thinks of the back end. I'm glad you're doing this.
I'm sure I'm not the only
You've
one.
got a
Your
real
husband and
message to get out there that
yeah.
people need to hear.
Yeah, it's just, it's being thoughtful and having intention and purpose around thinking
Right.
about it's great when things go good, right? It's great when we were just talking about your iPhone. When everything works, it's fantastic. But when that first thing goes wrong, it's like, your world turns upside down. Well, we don't want to be like this with AI, where our world is turned upside down and we're trying to scramble to figure it out, especially when there's,
Yeah.
legality components or compliance components, certainly.
That it's just being proactive and protecting yourself.
Exactly. Simple as that. So pillar number 3, risk management. Risk lives where governance doesn't. AI risk isn't a technology problem. It's a governance gap. The models don't fail. The oversight frameworks
Yeah.
fail. So as I've been saying since the beginning of this discussion, what and I share with you, I've consulted on with a few institutions. And what I'm finding is I'm ready to have a technology discussion. I'm ready to talk ones and zeros. I'm ready to talk about processing speed and how long it takes them to create their engine and whether they got the strongest server farm behind the scenes and things of that nature. What I often find is it becomes a discussion on these very things, the governance gap. It doesn't become a technology discussion.
Oh,
Risk reality of ungoverned AI. And I shared this at the beginning. 90% of AI failures are preventable with the proper governance framework. It eliminates the
really?
biases, the hallucinations, the data leakage, and certainly non-compliance problems. What creates AI risk faster than bad code? A, no audit trail, not being able to track where that information is stored or where the change is made, as I shared earlier. Model drift. Is it tied to old data? When data changes, is that AI mapped to when the data changes? I give you one example. One of my former entities,
Mhm.
we use SharePoint. Our website used to be on an old platform of SharePoint, and we migrated that to another platform. But what we didn't realize is some of our users were finding content that we had on our old SharePoint, which had employees who had left the company years ago. And so
Yeah.
they were trying to contact people who wasn't even there. So that was old data that actually got presented publicly. And when we uncovered it, obviously we fixed it, but who knows how many people, was getting the runaround because they were trying to contact people that were no longer
Right.
company. And then access sprawl, too many hands on AI systems without role-based oversight. If everyone if everyone thinks everyone has decision in place, then no one has a decision in place. So
Yeah.
who actually governs it, who actually oversees it, and are those people talking? I would recommend that if your institution, your company doesn't have, you can call it an AI council, an AI committee, an AI governance task force, any one of those names that you're used to forming, a group of individuals that have technical representation and functional representation, cross-sectional people in a room talking about these things. I would highly recommend if that group or no group considerable that's focused on AI doesn't exist, I would suggest people look to getting that as your first plan of action. And then pillar number four, ethics is not a soft skill. It's a requirement. Ethical AI and compliance. AI technology, AI transformation is not a technology problem. It's an ethics problem that's wrapped in technology. Leaders who treat ethics as a checkbox will pay for that decision in public trust, regulatory fines, or a combination of all in between. So it's important when we talk about when I speak to these institutions have in place, it gets into, well, what is do you have any procedures in place around the conduct of how people use the AI?
Mhm.
Responsible AI, ethical AI. AI still is getting aggregate information. If that aggregate information has biases in it, that's going to become what it's going to recommend. And I'll give one good example. We did a survey a few years ago, and it was revolving around a big political incident. Now we weren't talking politics, but there was a big political thing, and I won't get into what that was. But when the survey went out, people were thinking about the politics of what was impacting their life, and it was creating
Mm.
biases in their answers. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Those biases got translated into the output of those generic list of questions that we were answering. So there's where that hidden bias that we don't that if someone isn't reviewing that, they're not going to catch it, and it's going to produce that biased information because it's just a period of time when the questions were answered. The political scenario around that was forming what we were thinking, and our answers at the aggregate level became the output for that AI, and it had a lot of biases in it. So those are unintended consequences. The AI is going to know how to manage that. A human being needs to be involved.
I use AI, but it's not always right. You got to question it. If something seems like it's not what it should be, maybe it's you, maybe it's AI. But you need to have that ethics. You need to take time to research that. This isn't a pop your answer in, give me an answer and throw it out to the world kind of situation. Is you got to say, okay, here's my question, gather data from them. But it's the human element. It's always the human element. We have to be there. We've got to analyze what's being said and check it. So important. You can't just say, oh, well, AI said it.
Yeah, and that's I've heard some people do that. It's a very lazy approach. I'll be honest with you. Anything now, I use AI. I love it. It's a time
I
saver.
love it too.
But I never post anything, and we're I'm using LinkedIn more than posting subject matters and stuff like that. But I always make sure to read through it. One, because I want it to sound like me. If it's not even talking in my voice, I don't want to put that out there. I want it to sound like me, and I want it to genuinely and authentically sound like me. That's number one. Number two is it
Right.
putting out right information. Sometimes it doesn't have the best representation of what I want to put out. So yeah, everything that
Right.
I do that I use I always review it before I put it out. I would encourage anyone, please look over the stuff. You don't want to misrepresenting you.
Yeah, well, you don't want to be telling people wrong information either.
Uh,
You really don't.
exactly.
And I can't tell you how many times caught chat wrong. And I will type in there and say, you know what, that is incorrect. And he'll go, you're right. Thank you, Dr. Deborah. But if it's going to come out of me, I want to make sure it's ethical. I want to make sure it's right.
Absolutely. And I remember, Dr. Dever, you appreciate that when I was getting my master's. Those peer scholarly references when you had to write those essays. Oh my goodness, I remember it must be peer reviewed, by all these scholarly representations. So yes, if it's putting out actual data saying that these measurable tactics, well, where'd you get that source? So yeah, this is where ethical and responsible AI comes. So you've been doing
Yeah,
already, Dr. Dever, you didn't even know it. You're doing ethical and responsible AI.
exactly.
Yeah. So here we got a framework, the AI governance readiness assessment. What I would share with anyone, get yourself some kind of assessment. Begin to create some kind of analysis or assessment for yourself to just check what guardrails do I have in place. And I just say start with 4 questions to answer before you deploy, or if it's already deployed, or continue any AI initiative. Accountability, data governance, risk management, and ethics and
Mhm.
compliance. In accountability, is there an AI named owner for every system? Do you have an AI governance charter with defined roles and escalation paths? It's key. It's good to know who did it, but how do you escalate those problems? This gets into what we call change management and change ownership and things of that nature. When something changes, when something needs to be identified, who do we contact? What are those escalation paths? Data governance, is your training and inference data documented? Is it governed by a clear retention and access policy? What happens to that data over time? Do you have any
Mhm.
archive processes? Do you purge that data? Check what your statutes are surrounding that. Get your legal counsel involved because some of that becomes a legal discussion. But make sure you have clear retention and access policies. And how is your data documented? And certainly, how is it defined? Risk management, how you conducted your own AI risk assessment. Do you have monitoring, incident response, and model drift detection in place? Your IT team can certainly help in the areas that they steward. But again, what does your functional teams deal with when they need to respond to something when something is inaccurate that they're responsible for owning? And in ethics and compliance, has your AI been audited for bias? Is someone checking that? And do you have an ethics review process and understand applicable regulatory obligations? And so your next steps, this is what I have for everyone when you leave, for the people that took the time to listen to this. Start here. Start this quarter. Start today. So start Monday. Friday, don't listen to this on Friday, but start next week. Number 1, appoint an AI governance lead. Figure out who a person. It says not a committee. Name a person. But sometimes that person comes from a committee. If you don't have a committee, you need to get an AI committee. I will go as far as say that when it says
Mhm.
not a committee, I wrote this, but definitely make sure that you have a committee if a committee is not for. Audit your AI inventory. Document every AI system in use. Do you have a system? Do you have a inventory of the AI systems that you currently use? Establish a governance charter. What is the purpose? What do you want to get out of this at the end of the day? And run your first bias audit. Test your most consequential AI model for bias and discriminatory outcomes. And remember, AI governance is 80% policy, 20% technology. And again, what I shared in my experience is most of the discussions is not focused on technology. For my consultation is focused on policy,
Yeah.
policy, policy. And in summary, just ungoverned AI is not a competitive advantage; it's a liability waiting to be discovered. And just remember those 4 pillars that we went over: accountability, data needing to be governed, risk has to have a framework, and ethics is a business imperative. And I'm in the early stages. I'm getting into promoting my business, but I'm still working on
Yes, he's
getting that.
going to give me some stuff to put in the call notes so you can
Yes,
click to him.
yes, yes.
Right?
Yes, indeed. And July 1st, I'll have my website up. I'm getting all of this in the growth stage, but by July 1st, I have a website. But in the meantime, I tested this. This QR code does work. Just go to my LinkedIn profile. If for some reason the QR code you scan it does not work, just type in Antwione. There's not a lot of people spell with that unique spelling of Antwione. So Antwione. And please find me. Let's link up. DM me if any institution on this call and they need this help. Certainly DM me. I love to have a conversation with you, share some ideas. So thank you, Dr. Deborah, for your time. And if you have any questions, I'm certainly willing to.
Yeah, I really see this being you doing trainings in businesses. Like my husband's at an AI training today,
Ah,
and he got to write his AI bio,
yeah.
and he sent it to me. It was just cracking up. I said, it makes you sound real good. But yeah, this is definitely a training for businesses. I think
Yeah.
this would be powerful for any HR to pick something like this up and use you, because I think ethics is huge. I think we teach AI skills out there, but who's talking about the ethics of it? Who's talking about protecting your company? So I see companies jumping on this. I really
Absolutely.
do. And having their employees go, I know you're using AI. Let's use it responsibly. Listen to this man.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
thank you. Yes, well, Dr. Deborah, thank you for giving me this platform. It's amazing, and Miss Deborah, for the audience knows she is fantastic. Had a pleasure meeting her a few weeks ago. I mean, she's amazing, and she has energy, like just unending energy, and I love her energy, and it's such a pleasure to get to know her, get to meet her. Fantastic woman. So yeah, thank you, Dr.
Oh,
Deborah, for
thank you
giving me
so
this
much.
connection.
Newscaster. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on this. And I think this is a powerful episode. And just, I'm grateful for all you do. Well, that's what makes this fun.
Yeah,
I'm not a person that's going to have a podcast that everybody's bored at. And I pick
indeed.
fun people, and I pick people with knowledge. And you have something I have not seen a lot of this out there in the world. I really haven't. I don't know why. This is crazy because this is so needed in these times.
Yeah,
So if you
it
have a
indeed is.
business out there, get a hold of this guy and he'll send you all his links real soon.
It's
Okay,
coming,
he'll be
ladies and
out in
gentlemen.
about a week or so and the links will be there. Please get a hold of him because I think you need to have him talk to your people. He can save you tons and tons of lawsuits and money that way. Because, if you do the right things up front, you don't have the problems in the back end, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you again. And everyone, thank you for tuning in to Lead and Speak Without Permission. Tell your friends, family, and anybody else about it as we're trying to build this new powerful podcast. Because I think this is going to really go somewhere and people are going to learn some really good things. Thank you again.